Toshma. What was the question?
Yesterday you related covered a brief story. And during the 10 o'clock, before the 10 o'clock share. Maybe repeat it for the island. Share it with everybody.
We'll see. Maybe we'll get to it. Okay. Remind me later. Let's see. I want to cover some ground. Let's see if we get a chance to say over this case, this story. Toshma. Gadol covered a briais. It's a brisa, right? That says respecting people is so important. That it overrides doing a negative commandment in the Torah. So the implication being that any loisa say in the Torah, let's say says you don't violate the Shabbos, don't steal, that respecting people, not embarrassing people is so important that it overrides that. That's what the gemorah was assuming. The gemorah asks, why would you say the kavod abrius is doicha any loisa say? There's no wisdom, you can't do anything against Hashem. So in other words, why would you say that it's Deicha Leisa say? So Tirguma Rav Bash Shiba, so he explained the brisa to be Kamei the Rav Kahana. He said in front of Kahana, what are we talking about? Which Leisa say is it Deicha? Which negative commandment does it override? The negative commandment of Leis Sosor. Okay, meaning what? Belav the loisasim. Meaning, there's a law in the Torah that says, loisasim kol asher yerucha yimin small. Do not go away from whatever the chachamim, the rabbis tell you, left or right. Pasuk in the Torah. So any time that Chazal tell you to do something, if you don't do it, you violate this loisasor. In other words, so which is the loisaseh in the Torah that cover the bris overrides the loisaseh of loisasor? So the implication is, says the Rambam, says Rashi, that any time you over Issa Darbanan, you violate the Issa Daraisa called Leisasor. In other words, every Issa Darbanan is really also an Issa Daraisa. Which Issa Daraisa? Leisasor. You have to follow the rabbis. That's the biblical commandment of every time. So every rabbinical commandment becomes a biblical commandment with Leisasor. And the gemorah is saying, and this brisa is saying that it only overrides that issa of leisasa. What's the difference between this issa and any other issa? Why is leisasa any less of a violation than don't eat pig? Good question. So the Ramban goes ahead and says this leisasa, it's not an issa. It doesn't mean you over any issa deraisa every time you do issa darbanan. That can't be. If you, let's say you violated the Rabbanon Avera, Kunta Rambam, Kunta Rashi, it's a deraisa. Kunta Ramban, he says, I don't understand. If that would be the case, so every time you did a Darbanon, you so you should get Malchus. You don't get Malchus for a Darbanon. Why is Sofik Darbanon Lakula? Every Sofik Darbanon is now a Sofik Daraisa. So why would we say, if you're Sofik Daraisa Lachumra, Sofik Darbanon Lakula? Why should that be? It should be Suffolk Darbanan. It should also be Lechumra, because every Suffolk Darbanan is now, because of the Issa of Leisasor, that becomes the Issa Daraisa. There are answers to these questions. We won't necessarily get into it now. Maybe we'll have time. So that's a machlekes. What is this Leisasor? So we'll see a little bit more in the Gemara. Maybe I'll clarify. So the Gemara says, Achiku alei. They laughed at him. Why should cover the brius override Leisasor? Leisasor is biblical, it's daraisa. They laughed at this guy. Why are you telling me that cover the brius is deicha Leisasor? Leisasor is daraisa like anything else. How can it override Leisasor? They laughed at him. So Omar of Kahana says, Gavu Rabba Mamilsa. If a great man says something, don't laugh so quickly, right? Don't laugh at him. That really, any Issa D'Rabbanan is built on this Issa of Leisasor. right? Every Issa Darbanan, what gave Chazal the power to say this is also, this is muta, don't eat milk, don't drink milk after you eat meat? That's the Darbanan. How could they do it? Because the Torah says leisasor, you have to listen to the rabbi. So rabbis say, we want you to not drink milk after meat, because you might eat milk and meat together. Therefore, so what? So how could you be able to leisasor? So call mili darbanas pchinu alav leisasor umshum kovaid sharabanan, and for kovad abrius, the rabbis themselves said it's mutar. In other words, if the rabbis would say never drink milk after meat, there's no exceptions, then that would be, then kovad abrius wouldn't be deicha that you'd be able to leisasor. Kovad abrius wouldn't help you. But since the rabbis themselves said for kovad abrius, when it comes to respecting other people, their covet comes before our covet, so to speak. That's what Rishonim say. That's not my lashon. Their covet comes before our covet. Covet abrius, you don't have to keep the Issa Darabana. That's what the rabbi said. And that's why covet abrius is deicha, this lav v'mtev leisasor, meaning it's not really deicha leisasor. Covet abrius can't be deicha any leis, say in Torah. But the rabbis never said it when there's covet abrius involved. So this lashon called milid rabona smichinhu alav leisasor, the Ramban understands it to mean that it's like a smichas cry. It's not a gzer deraisa mamish of leisasor. Listen to rabbis, it's not deraisa, says Ramban. It's like a smichas cry. It's ain't deraisa. It's like a deraisa, but it's not really a biblical commandment. The Rambam says no, it's a deraisa. Rakma, the Chacham never said it. The Chacham never said it where there's a cover the breeze involved. A bit of a complicated sugya. Tashma. You can go much deeper into it, but like any other safe. Tashma. Says the gemorah, isalam mehem, v'hisalam mehem. You should ignore it. It's talking about you have an aveda, right? I'll read the pasuk. Sorry, it's talking about where you see your neighbor's donkey or whatever it is in the street, you can't, wandering around, you see your neighbor's donkey wandering, you can't ignore it. You got to give it back, right? You got to do Hashavas Aveda. Return someone's lost article, it's a mitzvah in the Torah, you see someone's lost thing, you have to give it back. And if you give it back, it's a mitzvah. And not to give it back, to ignore it, is an Avera. You're even Avera, not to do Hashavas Aveda. You're Mechayiv to. You're Mechayiv to give it back. So now, what does it mean, V'salam them? The pasuk says you should don't ignore it. So the Gemara says, what do you mean V'salam them? Sometimes you should ignore it, and sometimes you shouldn't. Okay, so how does it cheshbon? If, let's say, a kohen's walking past the graveyard and he sees someone left their watch in the graveyard, he shouldn't go in there. He's not allowed to. He doesn't have to become tomei to pick up this chayfetz. No, let's say he's an old man. He's very old. And it's not in his honor, it's a bizayin for him, it's disgraceful for him to go ahead and pick this thing up. We're going to do a little bit of a dive into that. Or if the expense of doing that Shavas Aveda outweighs the benefit of the Aveda. You don't have to spend $50 on a taxi and climbing up a ladder and doing dangerous things to give back. A guy loses his, I don't know what. A guy lost his hairpin, costs $1. You don't have to spend $50 on a taxi to take it back to the guy, right? So you weigh out, is this thing worth more? Huh?
His yarmulke blows off.
Yeah. You don't have to spend more money than that. So what's a zakeh? It happens to be a machlekes. Does a zakeh mean someone that's old, he's 100 years old, he's 70, whatever zakeh is, or it means he's a Talmud Chacham, he's a rabbi. He's in other words, and it's, so what do we care if he's a Talmud Chacham? That he's not worried about his own covet. It's covet at Torah. We don't care about his covet, but for him to go and bend down and pick up, like you see, you're in the street and you see a rabbi bending down to pick up like, I don't know what, a box of matches. You're like, this is what the guy cares about, a little box of matches that's worth $50. So, or he's picking up, I don't know what, something that's basically worthless. It's not a chvayday to pick it up. So what's the gather? What's chvayday, what's not chvayday? So if a rabbi is walking down the street, he sees a big gold watch, he doesn't have to pick up the Hashavas Aveda. So the question is, if it would be his, this is what the Rishonim say, if it's his, it fell down. His gold watch falls on the floor. Is he going to pick it up, or is he going to be like, it's a design for me to pick up? No, pick it up, right? So if it's something he would pick up, you got to pick it up for your neighbor. But if it's something he would never pick up for himself, you don't have to pick it up for him either. That's the gather. That's Zakeh. Now, what happens if he doesn't want to pick it up? He's walking down the street, he sees this Zakeh, says the Ritva, he sees something on the floor, I don't know, he sees this box of matches, he knows it belongs to his friend. What should he do? He doesn't want to pick it up. He says it's either pick or pay. You either pick it up or you got to pay the guy. He doesn't have to pick it up. But then he's going to go to his friend and say, I owe you $10. I didn't want to pick up I saw you lost your handkerchief. Here's $10. I owe you. I should have picked it up for you, but it wasn't respectful. A normal person can't do that. He's got to pick it up. You can't say, I'm not going to pick it up for the guy. You got to pick it up. You can't just pay him, right? Others want to understand in the Ritva what it means is that he doesn't have to pick it up himself, but he should pay someone else to do it. Go over to someone and say, let me give you $5, pick up this guy's tissue, and give it to him. That's the whole Zakev El Vichwayde issue. Or the benefit doesn't outweigh the cost. Ask the Ramban, I think it is. Yeah, the Ramban asks a good kasha. In other words, let's say you find a guy finds a watch. It costs $10. It's a $10 cheap watch. It's going to cost him $5 to take a taxi to give it back to the guy. Right? Now we would think, let's say it costs you, the watch is $10, but it's going to cost you $12 to give it back. So you would think, halach al-maisa, you don't have to give it back, right? V'salam temehem. You don't have to give it back. It's going to cost me $12, I have to give the guy a $10 watch. Well, of course not. Why would you assume? What do you need a posuk for that? Why would they assume that his money is more important than mine? I've got to waste $50 to give him back a $10 watch. Why would you assume that? What's the Havaman of the gemorah? That I can't be say, I've got to now spend $100 to give the guy back a hairpin that costs $1. It makes no sense. So there's two options. Either because, listen, you don't do it because it's a mitzvah, it's an aveira. You're not doing it for the dollar. You've got to do it because it's a mitzvah. You've got an aveira not to do it. So for that, you've got to spend $10. You've got to spend $50 not doing an aveira. The other alternative is that, listen to this cheshbon. You might think, if I give him back his wallet, right? And he's got to pay me what I spent. I spent $12. It's a bit of a cheshbon. I spent $12. I gave him back his $10 wallet. He'll give me the 12. What did he lose? 2, right? I gave him the watch. It's worth 10. He's got to pay me 12. He loses 2. I lose nothing. I'm always going to come and lose nothing. He's got to pay. Right? He's got to pay. So I'm fine giving it back. He's going to lose $2. So I might think that I have to pick it up in order that he should lose 2, not 10. If I don't give it back, he's lost 10. If I give it back, he's got to pay 12, he loses 2. So you might think I've got to give it back to the guy, he should lose 2, not 10. Says the Torah, no. You don't have to give it back. You don't have to start making these cheshbonos. Only if the cost of giving it back is less than the cost of the item, then you've got to give it back. It's good. Makes sense, no? All right, says the Gemara. The kach nemar v'salamta. That's why it says v'salamta to exclude these things, right? What do you need a pasuk to tell me? What do you need a pasuk to tell me is Now the Gemara is going to discuss this issue, right? What do you need a pasuk to tell me that a rabbi, old man, doesn't have to give it back? Why should he not give it back? Why should you not give it back? Give the thing back. He should have to give it back. We're worried about his covered. So the Gemara says, yeah, you're right. But because it says v'salam tehem, it's a gzeres hakasov. We learn from there, you don't have to. Without that, you would have to. In other words, the Gemara asks, just because so in that case, there's gemorah. So let's learn from here that when it's enefi chvaydai, you don't have to do it. Cover the bris is deicha leisa say, right? Just like this guy, the Rav doesn't have to give back if it's not covered for him. So anyone else you shouldn't have to do something if it's not covered for you. You shouldn't have to take off your tzitzis in the street if it's a bizayin, right? This guy doesn't have to give back. He could be over the lav of lo yisuchel esalem, he can be over the lav because it's ain't fi chvaydai. It's not respectful for him. So let's learn that from here to call it Torah kula. That if something's not fi chvaydai, you don't have to be over the lav. You don't have to rip off your sitters in the street. The gemorah answers isurim in main layafinu. You can't learn out isur like sitters for moment. Just because you don't have to do Hashavas Aveda doesn't mean you don't have to take off your sitters. There's a bit of a machlokes why you can't learn one from the other. Is it because Isser is more chomer than Mammon? Or some say not because Mammon's more chomer than Isser. We're more makbid with money than with Isurim. For example, with Mammon, Holchen Acharav. Sorry, with Isser we go Basarav. With Mammon, Ein Holchen Mammon Acharav. So you see that to a certain extent that money is more strict than Issa. So why can't we learn that moment Issa? Could it be it's two totally different systems you can't learn out? But what others say is that since the moment a guy can be Michael, a guy can forgive money. You can't expect Hashem is not going to be Michael for Averis. So since moment you can't be Michael, you don't have to go and do Hashavas Aveda. He could be Michael. That yeah, I didn't want you being over an Avera for my or Bizayna Rav to give me back my matchbox. He's Michael the money. So we assume it's the Daita Shalinish that the Moichel on it, or Hefka based in Hefka, people are Moichel the money, so therefore there is no moment of it. So moment is more kal. Tashma. The next pasuk is Velachoisai. Matamalem. What do we learn out from the pasuk Velachoisai? What does the pasuk say? Hold on. So we decide it's talking about someone who could be Tomei for his sister, right? If his sister dies, this Nazir shouldn't become Tomei. The case is this guy's walking down the street, minding his own business, to bring the carbon Pesach, or to do bris milah on his son. Then he hears, guess what? His sister died. You might think he has to go back now and become Tomei. Amras lo yitamei. The pasuk says he shouldn't become Tomei. He shouldn't become Tomei. As long as they do a mitzvah, he shouldn't become Tomei. So you might think that just like, this is the point of the gemorah here, you might think just like he shouldn't become Tomei for sister, he shouldn't be Tomei also for a meis mitzvah. What's a meis mitzvah? Meis mitzvah is he's in the forest, there's no one else there to bury, and there's a dead body there. It's a meis mitzvah, you've got to bury. Or, right? The animal's going to come and eat up this body. It's a mitzvah. You're not allowed to leave the dead body there. So you might think that all of a sudden he sees a mitzvah, someone screams out to him, his sister died. His sister died, right? So you might think that you might think just like you don't have to become Tomei for your sister, you don't have to become Tomei for meis mitzvah. Top of the page. He does have to become Tomei if there's a mitzvah. Amai. Why does he have to become Tomei? Why does he not have to become Tomei for his sister? What about the posuk of Eichach Mein Tfune Leged Hashem? Shani Hasim Dichsiv V'la Chaisai. Since there's a Gzeres Chaz, it says V'la Chaisai. Therefore, you can't learn out from it. Let's learn out from V'la Chaisai to everywhere else. The gemorah says Shev Al Taisa Shiny. That what? When Shev Al Taisa, not doing an action is different to doing an action. Meaning, if the guy's wearing a tzitzis, right? He's not doing an action, l'chayra. He doesn't have to do anything. So therefore you can't learn that out from becoming Tomei. So halacha l'maisa turns out that wearing tzitzis, you're wearing tzitzis that's kilayim. It's also to wear these tzitzis. Now, l'chayra, you didn't do a maisa. Did you do a maisa? Someone comes over to you and says to you, you're wearing tzitzis that's kilayim.
Isn't the wearing itself a maisa?
You didn't do a maisa. You happen to be wearing tzitzis now.
You're wearing them. That's a maisa.
A maisa means you put it on.
Well, you did that too.
But you put it on, you didn't know it was kilayim. So where's this guy's maisa? Where's this guy's Maisa? He doesn't actually, he never put on the tzitzis knowingly. He never actually did a physical action. Now he's walking down the street. He's not touching the tzitzis. There's no issa to walk. I mean, he's sitting there with tzitzis it's kilayim. I'm not doing anything. I'm not moving. Where's the Maisa? What Maisa is this guy doing? So it's a machlekes Rishonim what the Maisa is. Is the Maisa the fact that some Rishonim explain that since he put it on originally, he did a Maisa to put it on, even though he didn't know it was also, he put it on thinking it was a regular baghead. He puts it on, but that's a Maisa. Now that Maisa is mitzdarif. It connects to him sitting there now, minding his own business, and that's called. He did a Maisa on this lav. That's the latest Shesh by Maisa. I'll just say that the fact that you didn't remove it, maybe this is what you were saying, the fact that you're not taking it off, that's a Maisa. Take it off. You're wearing kilayim, take it off. What's the Maisa? Is it the fact that you did a Maisa originally, or is it the fact that you're not taking it off the Maisa? That's the question. You're going to ask me, who cares? What's the difference? What's the difference? Who cares? I'll tell you what the difference is. Let's say this guy, when he put it on, it was fine. In other words, what's the case that the Rishonim bring? Guy is lying in bed, right? Kohen is lying in bed without clothes on. There's no mace in the building. All of a sudden someone knocks on the door, there's a mace in the building. You got to get out. Is that called does he have to get out? Is it a lav sheyesh by Maisa? Is it a lav sheyesh by Maisa? If you say that you connect the original Maisa he didn't do an original Maisa. When he went to sleep, it was fine. He didn't do anything wrong then. Then there wasn't a Maisa. If you say that not leaving is the Maisa, so now he's doing a Maisa. So it says a Shagasari, I don't understand. This guy, he doesn't leave. Or the guy that's wearing the Sitzis Kilayim, you're going to give him Malchus? That's called the Lav Sheish by Maisa. He didn't do Maisa, you can't give him Malchus. You can only give Malchus if you see a guy doing a Maisa with Sra, don't do this. He didn't do Maisa. He even wants to understand the Rishonim differently. There's no Chavamin that not taking it off is a Maisa. You have to attribute the fact that when you put it on, that now is, we look at the Maisa you did originally, and we mitzaref that to the fact that you're wearing it now, that's your Maisa. Originally you put it on, now you're wearing it, there's your love with the Maisa. It's fascinating machlokes. All right. Says the Gemara. We're in the fourth line. Only if popular buy. Okay, a bit lighter now. Only if popular buy. Why was the door of the previous generation different to us? That they had open miracles. They had miracles. And why are we different? We don't see open miracles. What the Rishonim explain is he's not asking what about why were the previous 10 generations ago different or 10, 15 generations ago different. He's asking why was the previous generation, one before us. We saw they had miracles and we're not getting the miracles. That's the question. Why? Well, maybe we'll see. In other words, they knew there was people much greater than them. But what was the difference between me and my Rebbe? He had miracles openly doing. That generation, they all had open miracles. Why are we not seeing it? So it's a bit of a famous gemorah. If it's because of how much Torah they learned, that can't be, because b'shnei Rabbi Yehuda kol tenui ben nezikin hava. In the previous generation of Rabbi Yehuda, kol tenui ben nezikin hava, they only learned nezikin. And it's a big shaila why they only learn nezikin, because it's the hard one, it's the most relevant one, damages, how not to harm anyone. And we learn the whole Shisha Sidrei Mishnayos, we know everything. And we have a matter, not only that, we have a matter of Yehuda B'Uksin. When Yehuda was in Uksin, a woman who pickles olives. Or some say it's talking about that she was kavish with in the skin olives, and then Tyron. It's tar, meaning what? It's talking about a case that Rabbi Yehuda said, if an olive, if a woman pickles the olive in its with its leaf, and the sheretz touches the leaf, it's tar. Why? Because the leaf, once it's kovish, once it's pickled, becomes soft, and you can't pick up the olive with it anymore. It's going to just flake off. and therefore it's not part of the fruit, and therefore it's not matame the fruit. Okay, that's more, it's a big machlek is what it means, but that's the pashtus. So Omas, Rabbi Yehuda said, Avayas, the Rav Shmuel Kachazinacha, the big kashas of Rav Shmuel, the big machlekes, and I see over here in this little sugya of the olive. In other words, this olive thing is really complicated for me. It's like Avayas of Rav Shmuel. So you see, he wasn't holding any sugyas. Va'anan Kamasisim books in place of Masifta, and we have 13 different Masifta, 13 Botim Midrashim, or 13 different ways to learn. It's machlekes what it means, 13 different ways to learn each Mishnah, right? So we know Uksin much better than Rabbi Yehuda. Bah, Rabbi Yehuda, you know how great Rabbi Yehuda was. Rabbi Yehuda, ki have a shalev chad misane. Rabbi Yehuda took off one of his sandals. Asi mitra, the rain came. So what's the gemorah he talking about? The gemorah is talking about a story that's brought down in a different gemorah, that there was a drought, and they came to Rabbi Yehuda and said, we need rain, he didn't leave his house. And they said, they tried to convince him, they lured him out of his house. He came out, he saw everyone they're waiting in line to buy one pumpkin. They were fighting over one thing. What's going on? There's no rain. So he said, okay, I'm doing a tainus, I'm doing a fast. He takes off one shoe, starts raining. And then Elionovi came and said, don't take off the other shoe, or the whole town's going to get destroyed from the rain, right? It'll be too much rain. So why do you take off a shoe? Because that's one of the 5 inuyim on Yom Kippur. You're not allowed to wear shoes, you're not allowed to eat, drink, anoint yourself. So some say it was, he could be makabel a tainus because you have to accept the fast the day before, but he started and take off my shoes, I'm doing a tainus. Just the fact he took off one shoe, started raining. So that's what a great nace this guy had, he pulled off, right? He just takes off one shoe and it starts raining. And he takes off one shoe, and we come and stir in nafshe, we fast, we suffer, we cry out, we scream out. It ain't helping, doesn't help. So what's the difference? Why is Rabbi Yehuda, our teacher, so much greater than we are? Malay said, Kamai, the original, the previous generation, Hava Kumasi Nafshaya Kedushas Hashem. They were willing to sacrifice their life to sanctify Hashem's name. We are not willing to sacrifice ourselves for Kedushas Hashem. So first of all, obviously the place you say it means that there's levels. They were much greater. The Gemara is going to say a story about how much Mesiras Nefesh they had. That one, let's see the story. This great Ravada Ba'ava saw a woman who's wearing, this Gentile woman who's wearing a karbalasa in the street. So what happened? Savada Basholi, he thought she was Jewish. So what did he do? Come Karaminate, he ripped it off her. He found out afterwards she's a Gentile. Shimur Baba Mezuz. They made him pay 400 zuz. The equivalent of, I guess, $40,000 today. They said, you ripped off this woman, you embarrassed her, $40,000 penalty. So, but he was Maisa Nefesh. He saw a woman wearing it, he ripped it off.
What is it? What was she wearing?
She's wearing, so it's a machlek is what she was wearing exactly. But let's just finish this one line, I'll tell you what the machlek is. So, Amalei, in the base then, I guess, he said to her, what's your name? She said, Matun. Now, Masun means 200. So he said, Masun, 200, Abba Mazuzi Shavya. Masun, 200, 200, 400. I don't know why two 200s, but that's why you got 400 because your name is Masun. Okay. So what was she wearing? What was she wearing? He got so excited about. Some say it's like our previous survey. She was wearing kilaim. He saw it's kilaim. It's a beged that's made of kilaim. You got to take it off. Others say it was. Rashi seems to be saying it was a levush choshev. She was wearing like a royalty, beged of royalty. Why is this woman wearing royalty begodim? Ripped it off. Others say it was a red beged. I think that's the most famous understanding. It was red, and you weren't allowed to wear red because red is actually the color of royalty. That's why you can't wear red, because red is a beged chashuv. The royalty wore red. People weren't allowed to wear red, so if he wore red, he took it off. But so you see that they were willing to sacrifice their lives of Kedushas Hashem, to sanctify God's name.
What's the Kedushas Hashem there? She was just wearing red or something like that.
You know, you're doing an Aveira in public, you're doing something wrong, and they were worried for Kavod Shemaim. He pulled it off. He didn't care about ruining his life. He didn't care about now having to go into debt for 5 years to pay this woman. Didn't think about it, pulls it off. So the question is who cares about Kedushas Hashem? The Gemara seems to be saying it didn't matter how much Torah they learned because we know more Torah. And the Gemara doesn't say And the Gemara doesn't say that we do more maisim than them. The Gemara says it's totally in how much they're willing to sacrifice themselves, how much self-sacrifice they're willing to do. So who cares about the self-sacrifice? Why is that like the deciding factor whether you get miracles happening to you? So there's two opinions. One is because if you sacrifice yourself, that is l'mayla mateva. That's above human nature. Human nature is to do everything except for to die, right? So since you do something against your nature, Hashem goes against his nature. His nature is the nature of the world. He wants the world to run naturally. So if you're willing to be Meiser Nefesh, Hashem says also, I'll be Meiser Nefesh. Ben Yoda Ben Yoda says a nice pshat. He says, I'll tell you what pshat is. If a person is willing to sacrifice himself in this world, right, that means that this world means nothing to him. This world's nothing to him. He's willing to sacrifice himself. Why does Hashem not do miracles, open miracles? The Gemara says Hashem doesn't do open miracles. He doesn't want to take away from our reward. Because if he does open miracles, he'll be like, okay, you did open miracles, now I've got to serve you. So he's going to take away your reward. But this guy that shows he doesn't care about the reward. He doesn't care about the reward. He doesn't care about himself. He's Meiser Nefesh. Hashem says, you know what, so this guy I can do miracles for. I don't have to protect the Zaylim Haba. For this guy I can do miracles for. I don't have to worry about his cheshbon and shemayim. Okay, I thought it was a nice pshat. I like it a lot. All right, we'll end over here. Have a wonderful day. Yeah.